Hello, good morning.
This is Fuluke.
Good morning.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Hi, good morning all.
Thank you so much for being on this platform. So we'll just wait for the others. It's not yet 10.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Coker.
I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. Initially, Motiba moderator or Michelle Pulogo, to Balen Motoya. Engineer Kukule was coming on moving everyone. But now, nothing, I'm not hearing anything, but there are a lot of people there.
Look, I can hear you. I think it's just everyone's on silent. Everyone's just silent.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Dr. Alabi. Good morning. I think we should start. It's 6 after 10.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, participants joining us from all over the world. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Science and Tech Committee special webinar organized by the Science and Tech Committee of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Segun Alabi, and I'm your anchor person on this very wet day, Wednesday. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome the President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry to this August event. And she's ably represented today by Mr. Benga Ismail, Vice President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Ismail, you're welcome, sir. Hello, Mr. Ismail.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us and holding forth for the president. Also, we have the chairman of the Science and Tech Committee of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the person of Engineer Leye Kupolui. He's also vice president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You're welcome. Good morning, engineer.
Good morning, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being part of today's event. Also, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ayotunde Koka, ESCO member of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the moderator for today's event. Mr. Ayotunde Koka, good to have you once again. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and great to be here. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Also, we have our guest speakers today. We have two of them, and in no particular order, it's my pleasure to introduce to us Mr. Uche Elendu, Chief Executive Officer, Abzone Switch and Abzone Group. Is one of our speakers today. Mr. Elendu, good to have you. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Thank you. Also, we have our second speaker for today is no other than Mr. Ernest Mbekum. He is the CEO of Interstellar and founder and CEO of Bantu Blockchain Foundation. Mr. Mbekum, good to have you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. And on to all our participants joining us across the globe this morning, we want to give you a very warm welcome to this special webinar put together by the Science and Tech Committee of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The theme for today's webinar, as you all know, is unlocking the opportunities of blockchain technology. As we all know, that the blockchain technology and the crypto ecosystem relies largely on internet and electricity. 26% of Africa mobile internet adoption remains very low for this to actually happen in Africa, most especially our focus, which is Nigeria. So these and some other issues which I believe our speakers will be raising today will be interesting to hear from them. And also, I'm glad today that we have a very capable moderator in the person of Mr. Ayotunde Koka. So without much ado and without wasting your time, it's my pleasure to welcome the President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who is ably represented this morning by Mr. Benga Ismail, to please give the opening remarks. Mr. Ismail, you have the floor. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Good morning, sir. You're on very clearly.
Yes, we can.
Very clearly.
So I'm presenting the speech this morning on behalf of the President, Mrs. Toki Maboguzde. Distinguished speakers, Mr. Ernest Mbekum, founder, CEO, Bantu Blockchain Foundation. Mr. Uche Elendu, the Chief Executive Officer, Abzone Switch. And Mr. Moderator, Mr. Ayotunde Koka, the Managing Director of RAC Center. Engineer Leia Kupoli, Chairman, Science, Energy, and Technology Committee. Members of Science, Energy, and Technology Committee here present. Dr. Chinyere Amona, the Director General, LCCI. Esteemed members of the LCCI and business owners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to address you at this webinar organized by the Science and Technology Committee to deepen conversations on the blockchain technology. I congratulate the chairman and members of the Science and Technology Group of the Chamber for organizing this important webinar to discover the potentials of blockchain technology for business optimization, inclusive economic growth, and sustainable development. The theme of this webinar, Unlocking the Opportunities of Blockchain Technology, underscores the increasing importance of the process digitization and network systems for facilitating international transactions and cross-border payments seamlessly. Blockchain technology has emerged as one of the major innovations of the 21st century. It has witnessed dynamic adoption and become a transformative force in multiple aspects of public and private sector operations. This potential has been recognized globally with a variety of international organizations and technology companies emphasizing the benefits of its application in reducing costs of operation, as well as improving the efficiency and security of business processes. It is estimated that blockchain technology has been adopted by more than 1/3 of the companies in the world, and demand for blockchain developers and service providers are increasing continually. Blockchain technology provides one of the most secure and safe online transactions, which has disrupted and at the same time transformed many economic sectors and industries. Today, innovators in various sectors, such as medicine, healthcare, manufacturing, finance, transportation, and logistics, media and entertainment, hospitality, trade, e-commerce, and government, are realizing as well as leveraging the benefits of blockchain solutions. In the last decade, the field of blockchain in the IT sector has grown by leaps and bounds since the introduction of Bitcoin in 2008, the first decentralized peer-to-peer electronic cash system. According to a report by Grandview Research, the value of global blockchain technology market was $3.67 billion in 2020, and estimated at $5.88 billion in 2021. The sector is also projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 82.4% from 2021 to $394.60 billion by 2028. Similarly, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, projected that blockchain technology could contribute $1.76 trillion to the global gross domestic product by the year 2030. Nigeria's participation in the blockchain technology global market, especially in the cryptocurrency, has been markedly recognized. According to Chainalysis, the blockchain data platform, Nigeria has the 8th highest crypto adoption in the world, and generally, blockchain could potentially contribute to $29 billion to Nigeria's GDP by 2030. In recognition of these latent potentials, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITA, has developed a national blockchain adoption strategy that provides the national framework for the promotion and management of blockchain technologies in Nigeria. The policy generally seeks to identify and utilize the opportunities provided by blockchain technologies to strengthen security of the cyberspace and stimulate the growth of the technology economy. The proposed digital currency, e-Naira, by the Central Bank of Nigeria is built on the blockchain technology and set for launching later this year. This reinforces the need to position Nigeria strategically to leverage on the blockchain innovations and solutions for rapid economic growth, creation of employment for the teeming youth, financial inclusion, faster and safer digital transaction, cross-border trade, and minimize transaction risks. Unlocking this inherent potential requires creating a level playing field for all participants in both private and public sectors by eliminating entry barriers. This does not, however, imply total liberalization or allowing self-rule to regulate the Nigeria blockchain ecosystem. However, regulation must be dynamic, robust, responsive, globally competitive, and fit for the Nigerian context. This will give fillip to the tech-savvy youth to innovate, spur confidence of tech investors, and attract significant investments in the blockchain ecosystem. This webinar has been organized to deepen awareness among stakeholders about the noticeable benefits of adoption of blockchain innovations to drive business, regulatory, and governance processes. We have lined up renowned speakers and leaders in the IT sector with enviable wealth of experience and industry knowledge, which they will share with us today. I am confident that the outcomes of the webinar will broaden our horizon and help the participants in this webinar make informed decisions on exploring the possibilities with the blockchain technology. I hereby encourage all our guests and participants to pay attention to the presentations and discussions in order to get maximum benefits from this webinar. I wish to congratulate Engineer Leye Kupoluyi, Vice President and Chairman of the Science and Technology Committee of the LCCI, and all members of the committee for your laborious efforts to put this auspicious event together. On behalf of the Council and the entire membership of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I thank you all for honoring our invitation, and thank you for listening. Mrs. Toki Mabugunje, President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I thank you all for listening again, and that is the submission of the President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benga Ismail, Vice President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for ably representing the President this morning. And at this point, it's my pleasure to sincerely hand over the proceedings to the moderator. The capable moderator this morning is no other than Mr. Tunde Koka, MD CEO, Rack Center, and also ESCO member of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Koka, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alabi and Dr. Shagun. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see such a list of participants today, and it's a real honor to be the moderator at this event. We're around about 15 minutes behind where we'd scheduled to be, so I will not say too much, but I would like to request that we all stay on for about 10 minutes longer than the 11:40 a.m. scheduled end time. So 11:45, 10 to 12, if I can seek that time negotiation. We have a very august pair of speakers today. And just before we go into the presentations, which will be 20 minutes each, just a bit of context. We've had the first industrial revolution. We're well in the fourth industrial revolution. And some comments and observations I've made is that actually the amount of time for the third industrial revolution was just 50 years. If you look at the second, it was about 100 years. Then we now have the fourth industrial revolution, which is probably going to be a shorter period of time. And we may well be going into the fifth industrial revolution pretty soon with some of the technologies. You may recall we have Web 1.0, and now Web 2.0 brought about semantic web, support for a lot of social media technologies that we have now, multiple devices, and so on. And that took about 10 years to evolve. And now we're walking towards Web 3. And part and parcel of that integration is blockchain technology. A lot of people think of blockchain with its relationship to Bitcoin and financial transaction management and validation, but it really is much, much more pervasive than that. And I say it's probably going to be a key aspect of Web 3.0, but it'll impact our lives almost as much in the way the internet has, and it's going to be quite obvious. We see that in blockchain, but we'll see all other usage scenarios around international payment validation and essentially being an electronic escrow agent for many, many other transactions in many aspects of our lives. And we won't even know that this is what's taking place. So we look forward to the presentations today. The first presentation is from Mr. Uche Elendu, and Uche Elendu is a financial services and payment solution expert with over 10 years experience delivering payment solutions to banks and businesses. He's the CEO of AppZone Switch, a subsidiary of AppZone Group. AppZone Switch provides proprietary decentralized technology that leverages blockchain to enable faster, cheaper, and more reliable digital payments across Africa. Today, their flagship product, Zone Switch, facilitates interbank transactions across banks in Nigeria. And I think just building on that profile, fantastic profile, is the fact that this could be, it will be a very strong underpinning cross-border payments technology to enable the Africa Free Trade Agreement that's just been signed. So Uche might have a view on that. But nevertheless, without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Uche Elendu to give us his presentation on the subject. Thank you. Uche, over to you. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Tunde Koka. It's a pleasure to be here. I start an existing protocol. Thank you so much to Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the executive team, for putting this together. It's really, really great. And it's a sign of great things to come. I think, let me just share my screen. I'm able to do that. And I would basically turn off my camera so we can focus on the presentation. Okay. All right. Okay, so I would, so I think that introduction is spot on, really spot on. Like Mr. Tunde Koka said, the last industrial revolution took about 50 years, right? But the current technology-based revolution that is going to happen, and speaking, like he said, the impact that we expect blockchain to make on the business landscape is as huge and as monumental as the internet. That is actually the expectation, right? And every indication and the progress that we've witnessed over the next few years has not indicated otherwise, right? It seems to be on track. And I would show that by looking at this quote. So this was the NASDAQ chief executive at the time in 2015. He was interviewed by Forbes, and he said this. In 2015, if many of us remember, blockchain was sort of regarded as technology for something for hobbies, like tech hobbies, right? It was just Bitcoin. It was almost rogue tech really at the time. And even at that time, he said, blockchain is the biggest opportunity set we can think of over the next decade or so, right? lots of people felt, this thing, there's no way it's not going to go mainstream, yada, yada, yada. It's just going to be on Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin is going to die. And this was just 2015, right? We're in 2021 and Bitcoin isn't dead, right? And we already see we are seeing a lot of growth, right? In terms of multiple applications of blockchain across and beyond Bitcoin. So, which is why what I'm going to try and do in this presentation is to really try and talk about blockchain, but outside of Bitcoin, because every time I engage people outside of the financial services industry and it's mentioned blockchain, a lot of people just seem to say, what is blockchain? They tell you Bitcoin, right? Even within the financial services industry, within the financial institutions and banks and stakeholders there, it took us a while to actually even do, sensitize them and get them to understand that when you mention blockchain, it does not mean Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is just one application of blockchain. So I'm going to talk about that a little before and then talk about applications and then talk about what I think we should do, right? So that we'll be able to tap into the opportunities that blockchain presents and apply that technology across various industries, and see tangible results. So I'll just start by running. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is basically an encrypted list of records, right? Just like a database, right? You save those records in a database. It's a list of it. However, the difference between it and a database is that those records are bashed together in a block. They are signed using electronic signatures, right? Using cryptography. I'm trying to not be very techy. And then chronologically ordered and linked in a way that every block that is saved has a relationship to the previous block. Now, this unique way of saving data makes it nearly impossible to edit any information in the middle. So let's say you have a data, a ledger of say 10 blocks, right? What that means is that the first block is the first block. The second block has a relationship to the first one. The third one has a relationship to the second one. The fourth one has a relationship to the fifth one. So if you try to make any adjustment, say, and all the way to the 10th, if you try to make an adjustment, say you want to edit data in the fourth block, what you're going to do is you basically wreck the entire chain because the fifth block relies on that fourth block. So if you change that, then the digital signature, right, of the block changes. And the fifth block is actually part of what makes up that fifth block is also the digital signature of the fourth block. So just technical jargon. But the point here is data is saved in a way that is changed, right? Such that the next data record builds on the previous one. So they are completely related and you cannot just go there and change whatever it is you want. The second thing that is unique about it is that the system is designed in a way that it's designed to not be centralized, right? Because centralized systems are limiting in a way. One, you have only one means of access. That itself creates a systemic risk, right? Where if that center goes down, nothing works, right? So a more superior technology architecture is having a distributed architecture where things are, you have multiple copies in multiple places. So if one is attacked, you have others to fall back to, right? And this ensures that when you combine the way it saves data and the distributed nature, right? You have a scenario where your data is relatively safe because the data is also stored in a way that is encrypted. Using the blockchaining algorithm or protocol, you would not be able to edit data in between, right? Because it is distributed, it works in a way that is such that it doesn't need an intermediary to distribute the data across entities. And I'll talk about some other features of that. Now, like I said, when we say what are the applications of blockchain, this is what people usually say, right? Except some of us are a lot more accustomed to the technology. So you can see this pie chart. Cryptocurrency is just a small piece of it, right? I couldn't really fit everything into here, but I guarantee you is a bit more smaller than this, right? It's not just all cryptocurrencies. Now, what are the features really of this technology? So I would say that blockchain technology is at the center of it, right? Is designed in a way that it creates if the trust foundation, right, that business relationships require. So a good analogy I would give here is this. Typically today, if you want to do a transaction, right, you want to send, you basically say you want to pay for something. I know some of you are familiar with escrow services. So the way escrow services work is that you want to pay for something, you don't trust the entity you want to pay. Escrow services, what they do, for example, today is you would give the escrow service operator, he holds that money for you, right? Serves as an intermediary, and then says, okay, and then you sign an agreement. He is aware of the transaction. And what he does is when the party that is supposed to provide service to you is done providing that service, right? He will then release the funds to that person. Now, intermediaries today are what we use to, build trust, ensure we have the necessary layer of trust for business relationships to thrive, right? Some of those intermediaries today, sad to say it, right? You have even in banking as it is, when a transaction is being processed, there are intermediaries in the middle that facilitate the transmission of that transaction, right? These intermediaries basically ensure they are there. Them being there helps you better trust the system. Now, part of what blockchain has come to do is, hey, why not encode the rules, right, for your transaction? Whatever the rules for your business domain is, for the nature of your transaction, why don't we're able to encode the rules of that business domain into what is called like a smart contract, a program, which also runs on the blockchain, right? Now, by the time you combine that with also the data immutability quality of the blockchain, where it's impossible for any party to go and change data into the blockchain after it has been committed, right? The other feature it also has is, like I told you, transactions are not just saved, they are signed, right, using the identities of what we call keys, like private keys of the party that is authorizing that transaction. And in a lot of cases, those transactions are also encrypted in a way that you can't just go there and see what is there, right, on your own. Now, you combine data immutability, the enhanced security it provides, right? Transparency. Now, transparency here, what that does is, in the case of a funds transfer, for example, when you send money today to some other person, typically you don't know if the person has gotten the money. What you know is you got response, right, from the application you use that the money has been sent, but you don't know really if that money has been sent. In fact, in some cases, what happens today for financial institutions is the financial institution just has to trust that the middleware that they spoke to, right, to instructed to initiate that transfer has actually executed it. Now, with blockchain, parties that are involved in a funds transfer today are actually able to verify end-to-end that value moved from the sender's wallet to the receiver's wallet. You can see that entry on the ledger, right, itself. You don't need to depend on the response from the intermediary to tell you what happened to that transaction, right? The example I also just explained tells you that this transaction, therefore, if you don't need intermediary to do it, if you could just send an instruction into the ledger, into the system to initiate a transfer, then why do you need the intermediary, right? That's the peer-to-peer feature. So it basically allows you to transact peer-to-peer with parties on the network. All the parties need to do really is be on the blockchain network. They may or may not have a blockchain system node, but they can be on the network, have access to it, right? Be able to send instructions into it, be able to read, data, what has gone into it specifically for their own accounts or wallets that exist on the blockchain. And then there is privacy, right? I think one of the challenges we've had in trying to bring that technology into the banks, which we've done today, was privacy. Now, and I'll show on another slide, I'll explain that. But privacy initially seemed to be the problem, right? But I'll explain on another slide how the problem of privacy basically was also catered for, right? But basically, when you put all these features together and being able to encode the business rules programmatically, as against relying on an intermediary to manage it, right? Then you inevitably or consequently basically have a system that has technology, right, enforcing all those rules, thereby having the foundation, really the trust foundation for business relationships to try. So it creates a new basis of trust for business transactions, a basis that is not driven by people, but that is driven by rules, right, enforced by technology. Okay, so, and I mentioned that one of the issues we had was privacy. Now, and I explained this diagram, types of blockchain, it would help me explain that. Now, blockchain isn't just one type of tech. Even within the blockchain technology space, there is a spectrum, right, of blockchain solutions. There's a spectrum, and it typically goes from public permissionless to private permission. That's actually the order in which it goes. And I explain. So what we started with was Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin is public. The way the Bitcoin blockchain network is I could basically wake up tomorrow morning, spin up a node, connect it to the Bitcoin blockchain network, and it would, once I connect, it would send me all the transactions that have ever happened on the Bitcoin network. It's most likely, it's definitely going to be very large, very, very large. Like I can get external hard disks, to accommodate all that data, and I can have it. There are people that have that. The same for Ethereum. I could basically do that, right? Which is why you have the Bitcoin network grow so large, right? Just in a short period of time, in less than half a decade, right? It grew really large, and you know what the value of Bitcoin today is. Now, quickly, what people quickly saw was, hey, this technology with features I described here, realized that this could be applied, to other spaces. And what they started doing was experimenting and trying to create other blockchain-based platforms that were a bit more permissioned, right? So, and I explain what I mean. So today in banking, for example, the bank, part of the requirements in order to combat fraud, and the financial sector is highly regulated, right? It is required for security reasons to know who exactly and who are transacting, right? So if something goes bust, if it turns out that this person is doing something illegal, right? You can hold them, you can basically track them down and hold them. You can basically regulate what happens there. So it was necessary to create a blockchain platform that would allow us to know who is transacting. On Ethereum and Bitcoin, you really don't know who is transacting, right? Identity is basically anonymous. Now, some of those blockchain platforms that were created on this other side, now some of them were, who is transacting, and they could also be public. Now, being public means that you could actually connect to it over the internet and say, hey, I want to join this network. You will be profiled, right? And then you add your node to the network and you can transact on the network. Examples of those kind of blockchain platforms are Repo, Stellar. Ethereum ended up having a version of Ethereum that was designed that way. And this was, if you can see in Ethereum, it's called Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. It's basically designed for the enterprise because anonymity is not good for the enterprise, right? It leaves, that gap creates all sorts of problems we don't even want to go into. On the other side, right, for enterprise, there is also the need for some privacy. So yes, I now know who I have. The blockchain allows me to know who is transacting, the nodes that are doing these transactions, who they are authorizing these transactions. But I don't want everybody to see everything we are doing. This was specifically one of the concerns, in fact, the biggest concern that the banks raised when we were engaging them. And they said, hey, are you saying if I do a transaction, GT and Access Bank does a transaction, you're saying First Bank can see all the transactions I'm doing with GTB? Oh no, I don't want to see, I don't want that to happen, right? So that led to the rise of another type of blockchain solution, which basically allows you to have a permission blockchain where every party on that blockchain is recognized, you know who they are. In fact, they are probably even regulated entities in the industry, right? And again, transactions that happen within the network, you can decide I want everybody on the network to see this transaction, or you can decide I need this transaction to be private only between the people that did the transaction. Now, I would say that it was at this point was when blockchain, right, the applications of blockchain basically exploded, right? It was at this point industries, right, Walmart, the people that are in supply chain, the people in healthcare, identity, in banking, started seeing, hey, wait, we could take this blockchain, set up a blockchain platform for our industry and get all the participants on our industry on that network, create our rules, right, in smart contracts, and basically automate our industry, run it on our own blockchain ecosystem, right? That's really that. And the way I explain to people is that actually blockchain has evolved over the years. So on this side, on the right side is blockchain 1.0. That's how I like to describe it. On the other side, at the top here, between permission and public, is blockchain 2.0. And at the bottom here is blockchain 3.0, right? And 3.0 is where enterprise is actually able to take blockchain and connect with and use it. Now, the question then we also had to face was, okay, fine, beautiful tech, right? But you're bringing this technology into an industry. Now, in some cases, we've seen that blockchain would create new industries. And I'll talk about that just a little bit. But in a lot of cases, what we're seeing is blockchain can be applied to existing industries, right? Now, the problem is that some of these industries don't have a proper governance framework, right, that would accommodate the tech, really. And so that's the initial problem you would face. In financial services, especially in the banking sector, I think we'll all agree here that the financial sector is the most regulated sector in Nigeria at the moment. I haven't seen a sector that is as regulated as it yet. Healthcare is equally very regulated, but I think there's a saying in the banking sector that the fear of CBN is the beginning of wisdom. So there is that. And if you've done a lot of work, right, in laying down guidelines, for operations. Now, the first thing we had to do was to say, hey, we have this tech. Not the tech, actually. We've identified a problem. And that is moving value from point A to point B. Intermediaries were slowing down transactions. The systems were centralized, which meant that when there was a problem, intermediaries involved in the transaction had to go back to the system in the center to say, hey, and this system in the center is an entity. What happened to this transaction? That was slowing down the response time to customer dispute complaints, right? And we said, hey, why not we implement this, have the transaction go end to end, and that data is available to all transacting parties. Thereby, with that being available to all parties, they're able to resolve dispute issues as they go without needing an intermediary to get into it. There's full visibility and transparency of what happened to the transaction, right? So we would basically say bye-bye to the error of I did a transaction, I sent it, I've been debited, I don't know what happened. That was the problem we were trying to solve. And we had to say, we realized that to do that, there was already a regulatory framework for transaction switching. So the first thing we had to do was implement that regulatory framework within our solution, right? So if there's security, financial, operational audits that need to happen, we need to recreate that, right? If there were rules, governing councils, like some governing councils within the area we were operating in, right? We needed to make sure that those entities are catered for, right? What are the change management control protocols? We had to make sure that was catered for. Now, when you move away to other sectors, I think one of the things we have to do, right, is not just bringing the tech, is look at the sector, look at the case we want to apply. We want to apply this. And either take the regulatory framework that exists and implement it, and I doubt in some cases we may not be able to. Then if that is not the case, you would have to sit down and work with the regulators, right, to come up with an enhanced regulatory framework, right, that would aid seamless implementation of the technology, right, so that it works, really seamlessly and takes care of all the concerns, risk and otherwise for the industry. Now, the other issues around compliance, right? For financial services, KYC, AML protocols are some of them. Regulatory reporting was critical as well. Now, in compliance, again, what we also have to do is make sure that all of the compliance requirements for that industry, if they can be enhanced, right, which will require a lot more conversation with the regulatory body or the team, or just implement straight up what is there. The blockchain platform, we've also found what you will see is aids seamless regulatory reporting. Now, because of the end-to-end transparency and the fact that you can basically add every member of the business ecosystem to the network, that makes it what that means in reality, practically, is that every transaction or operation that happens on the network with the regulatory party also on the network, they basically have real-time visibility of what is going on, and they can get reports in real time. Whether it's revenue reporting, whether it's reporting on revenue, like for government, for example, right? That can happen in real time. And I found that bringing this forward and selling it to industry regulators, right, has helped significantly, because when they understand that, oh, okay, I can see this in real time, they're a lot more willing to have that conversation, right, and get a compliance framework, properly implemented while you deliver your solution. Okay, so off of that, so with that out of the way, right, what are the applications? Cryptocurrency clearly is one of them. Trade financing is key, definitely one of them. We've talked about, it's clear with the infrastructure like this, what that means is you are able to do trade transactions, right, without human intermediaries, which basically reduces the time, saves you cost on operations, right? Because operations basically happen in near real time. It saves you costs in reporting and compliance. Applications we've seen are in payment and real-time settlement, retail payment, where you basically send money from your bank account to someone in the village into a wallet, either through mobile money. Those integrations are very possible. Also, what we've also seen, the applications in secure identity and claims management. One use case we've seen here is in health, for example, where there is a need to manage, individuals' health records in a way that is private, secure. Even banking has that problem, right? One of the problems we're having with the growth in the financial services space, with the influx of fintechs and the rapid innovation that is going on, is there's clearly a need to share data, right, between parties. So how does that data sharing happen, right? In summary, how does that data sharing happen, right? Now, one of the concerns with that is, how do I share data in a secure way between entities on the network? How do I share that data securely? Blockchain basically allows you to manage each person's data in a secure and private way, and even share it without necessarily disclosing the full details of the individual that the third-party system is trying to authenticate using what you call zero knowledge protocols, right? Amazing tech, something to look into. Supply chain and monitoring, clearly. Now, there are new business domains like P2P reseller business models I talked about. But for lack of time, I'm not going to say so much about that. I could share maybe in Q&A session if questions come around there. But ultimately, because it allows seamless transactions between peer-to-peer pairs, what I've seen is opening up opportunities is basically reinventing the P2P reseller business models, right? Where you could have independent resellers basically come up, resell stuff for you. You've encoded what the sharing ratios would be on commissions, and that basically runs in autopilot. This is implemented in real time in knowledge-based businesses. And then there are other custom P2P interactions. What we've done in P2P, speaking of P2P interactions, like I said, is in Zone Switch, where we've basically been able to implement a system that facilitates transactions.
Okay, just a note, please. We are on time limit, and would you be able to round up in 2 minutes, please?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, so So what we've been able to do is, like I said, integrate the institutions themselves, enabling them to transact between themselves, and by doing that, the transaction information is available to financial institutions in real time. With that visibility, they're able to resolve customer disputes in real time. We found that using a decentralized system is a lot more efficient. We are seeing consistent transaction success rates, higher transaction success rates. We've seen that the system is also a lot more scalable because it's distributed as against centralized models where there is a huge bottleneck. There could be huge bottlenecks in the center. What my submission is, going forward, with all of what I tried to highlight here, highlighting some of the things that need to be, put in place, having a governance framework, either looked, revised, and integrated, right, when implementing a blockchain solution, there has to be massive stakeholder education. This is one of it if we're going to unlock those opportunities. Also, there has to be a platform, a juncture where existing traditional veterans, right, can collaborate with technology entrepreneurs to implement those blockchain solutions in such a way that they fit seamlessly into existing governance or regulatory frameworks in specific industries, or if they aren't, have a think tank that basically comes together to craft those frameworks, right, and then implement around that framework. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Uche. Very, very insightful in the range of applications for blockchain technology. In the payments value chain, and the importance of the right kind of regulatory and governance framework. Thanks. We'll come to questions and answers and discuss that in more detail. Now it's time to go on to the next speaker. It's Mr. Ernest Mbenkum. His background is really quite amazing in this space as a technology entrepreneur, inventor, investor, and computer scientist. He spent over 20 years of his career in the technology and innovation space. He has launched successful tech companies in North America, Europe, and Africa over the last 2 decades. And he was an early adopter for blockchain technology in 2009, starting with the Bitcoin blockchain, and also credited for helping to start the blockchain movement in Canada with Vitalik Buterin, Peter Todd, Anthony, and the Euro, which led to major contributions in the blockchain space. Such as Ethereum blockchain, really quite remarkable. He was founder and CEO of Interstellar Inc., Africa's leading enterprise blockchain infrastructure company. He was also co-founder and CEO of Bantu Blockchain Foundation, the first Africa-led open blockchain infrastructure that focuses on financial inclusion solutions. Between 2000 and 2005, he lived in London, where he launched his first tech company, Last Digital Limited, providing web hosting and development services with over 40,000 customers globally. He has, an amazing background in a wide range of technology infrastructure. He holds dual nationality for Cameroon and Canada, and he has lived in Toronto since 2005. I spends about 6 months each year on the African continent, of which I hope to, grab a moment, perhaps when circumstances allow, face to face. And he has actually been well published. And in 2021, June this year, he was invited to participate in a FinTech Roundtable discussion hosted by the World Economic Forum and the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance. So without much further ado, following that really pretty impressive summary of his background, Ernest, if you can take us through your presentation, thanks. And that will be over 20 minutes. I'm very much looking forward to it. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Hi, everybody. Would like to appreciate the invitation from the Lagos Chamber. Super excited to be here. Thank you to all of the guests that have taken their time this morning to be part of this event. Hope you can all see my screen. Just give me a heads up. Fantastic. Yep. So yes, 12 years ago, I found myself in a chat room with some very interesting people exploring some weird technology called Bitcoin. And very exciting. And over the years, I've been part of some very key blockchain initiatives, Ethereum, Darkcoin, Dash, Zcash, Stellar, Hyperledger, etc. However, one of the unique challenges I faced or I noticed was, how does this help us in Africa? We've always been consumers. We've never been really producers when it comes to technology and innovation. Albeit Nigeria has been really amazing in pushing out fintechs, AppZone here, Flutter, InterSwitch, and many others. But one thing that was missing from the equation as blockchain began to evolve was infrastructure, blockchain and Africa-led infrastructure designed to address our own unique problems and challenges. Because along the way, I saw innovations from Asia, from the US, from Europe, but nothing was really coming out of Africa. And many of us were being attracted primarily from an investment perspective in blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But my interest was, how do we leverage this to solve real world problems? And so that led to me thinking. And for 5 years prior to this year, we began to work on something. And that now was activated in 2019 with a project called Bantu, which I'm about to share today. So Bantu is an Africa-led blockchain infrastructure that is designed to empower humanity. This is built and managed by Africans. It was also an opportunity to bring together Africans from all spheres, from all over the continent, around the world, to show that we could work together. Because one of the challenges is that, can we as Africans work collaboratively and selflessly? And so Bantu was really about trying to bring this myth and show that we could do it. So the next slide. What's our vision? To become the largest distributed network infrastructure with the most decentralized governance model for wealth creation and economic sovereignty for humanity. And our mission is to empower humanity across all industry sectors, both public and private, using blockchain and other fourth industrial revolution technologies. Our team is currently made up of over 30 dedicated African team members spread out across 7 work streams and across 3 continents. And we are among Africa's leading blockchain professionals who have been in the industry since the very early days. Our members have decades of experience in banking, finance, cybersecurity, fintech innovation, governance, law, large-scale data center infrastructure deployment, intellectual property, and more. And we continue to grow each month. Supporting us is an amazing group of advisors. And I'll focus on Nigeria here specifically. We have people like Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, the CEO of Sterling Bank, Mike Ogbalu III, the CEO of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. We have John Obaro, MD, CEO of System Specs, Chuta Chimizie, founder, Blockchain Nigeria User Group, and Mrs. Ada Irikife, Associate Director, Head of Disruption at PwC. So we've brought together some really strong heavyweights to support us on this mission. And what are the core features of our blockchain? So it allows you to instantly and securely swap, transfer, and trade digital assets, not just within Africa, but across the world at nearly zero cost. It is fast, so we can do real-time payments and settlement within 2 to 5 seconds with over 10,000 transactions per second. These transactions are secured cryptographically using publicly established tools and techniques. These transactions are trustless, so I don't need to trust you. Our previous speaker, Uche, gave us a lot of detail about the whole blockchain ecosystem, the backgrounds and the different types. And at the core of this is literally the encryption that makes it really secure. And low cost. The network we've built can handle over 100,000 payment transactions for less than 50 Naira. Now, it also supports regulatory compliance, AFC, CFG, and other interesting things like smart contracts that were again touched by our previous speaker. And within this blockchain, we also have a built-in decentralized exchange for managing both assets and digital currencies. Now, what have we built so far? So over the years, we've built what we have our core network. This is basically holds our validator nodes. These nodes are required to keep the network chain running and maintaining all the transactions and ensuring that everything is running smoothly and in a consensus mechanism. Then we have an API that allows anyone to access the network transactions and services and view them and build their own applications. In 2020, we launched tools. So we have a dashboard that allows you to monitor and see the networks, its heartbeat, if it's running okay. We have a laboratory for developers and third parties to experiment on the network. And we have an explorer. Every blockchain has an explorer, so you can view transactions, you can view network activities and what's happening in real time. And in 2020 and 2021, we basically added now some new applications. When most blockchains go to market, they don't typically have their apps. So it's usually the developers that profit or benefit from this first. But we felt that it was critical to bring the everyday average user onto blockchain so they don't miss this opportunity. So the team came together and we built a token creator. So anybody today can go issue their token on the Bantu blockchain. You don't need to be, you don't need a developer or engineer to do this. It's as easy as using any other tool online. We have a Bantu Pay wallet, which sits on a Bantu Pay infrastructure. This wallet is currently downloaded over 100,000 times since March this year when we went into mainnet, when we launched, and from users all over the world. We have our Bantu Pay API, so users can also leverage this Bantu Pay like Apple Pay, Alipay, etc., to plug in and trade and transact not just fiat currencies, but also other tokenized assets. We also have the Bantu Talk forum that allows you to join and participate and communicate with other team members. Then also in 2020, we also have our core native assets. So our previous speaker talked about various blockchains. These are layer 1 blockchains. So what powers our blockchain is what is called a Bantu Network Token. It is a utility token. There are different types of tokens. There are stable coins, there's asset-backed tokens, there's security tokens, but a utility token, you can think of it like MTN airtime. You need that to basically communicate and perform transactions on the network. And our token has been reviewed by both the European Securities and Markets Authority and the European Banking Authority and cleared as not a digital currency of a sort, but purely a utility to power other assets deployed on our network. How does it work? How does it all come together? So you see we have network tools, and these network tools help to keep track of the network in the middle. And then on the right side, we have the decentralized applications that are built on top of this network for supply chain management, financial services, Internet of Things, insurance, healthcare, etc. Who are we targeting? So while we are currently focusing on millions of end users across the world, we are also able to support and add value to many organizations and industries in the banking sector, governments and regulators, supply chain management, healthcare, education, remittance, payments, oil and gas, developers, tech, micro, small, and medium enterprises. And I believe that as I was reading through the LCCI, they have about 24 sectoral groups. So we believe we can also help these entities. And how do we help them? They can begin to tokenize their commodities, goods, and services, make them liquid. This is real estate. This is ogbono seeds. This is gari. These are toll gates. These are roads. These are basically farms, etc. By tokenizing them, again, we'll talk about it during the Q&A session, we can make these assets liquid and they can go global. What is the opportunity for us as Africans? So this can dramatically increase our local production and exports via asset tokenization, as I mentioned earlier, and reduce our dependency on foreign imports and less dependency on things like crude oil for Forex as the world goes green, and really leverage blockchain innovation as the new crude oil. This is not something that is for a specific class of people. Everybody can participate in this new ecosystem. And Nigeria is really carrying the flag for Africa in this. We have the youngest demographic in the world. The median age is about 18, 19, 20, as we know. And it is estimated that by 2050, Africa would be about 2.5 billion people. Half of humanity will be Africans. So if the world is shifting from the West to Asia and Africa being the next destination, how are we going to be ready as Africans if we are only consumers? That is why Bantu was birthed, so to speak, to have our own solutions, our own infrastructure to solve our unique problems. And this is critical. When we launched the Africa Continental Free Trade Area in January this year, what tools did we have to boost intra-Africa trade, which is less than 15% at the moment? We believe that with Bantu and all the organizations and businesses leveraging this infrastructure, we can solve these problems and dramatically increase our intra-Africa trade. And it's critical. Africa needs an open, secure, and transparent global infrastructure. You know, the internet now has what I call the currency of the internet today is about trust. And how do you get that trust? Well, by leveraging technology that is tried and tested, that is respected by partners, businesses around the world that can come and see that we in Africa are using technology that is transparent, secure, and able to prove that we are who we are. And ultimately, all the data being generated can be consolidated, provide market intelligence, credit ratings, and other things that we need to grow our economies. Most important of all, we provide a digital infrastructure for micro, small, and medium enterprises to really begin to take advantage of this technology at a very low cost. Some quick stats about our technology: over 100,000 app downloads since March this year when we went live on our main net. We launched in December in Lagos, over 70,000 users on social media. We have users from over 170 countries. And while we launched this within Africa, you can see that our top 10 countries, the first is Indonesia. They toppled Nigeria. Nigeria is second. We have Bangladesh, the US, Vietnam, all the way to Singapore and Pakistan. But there are many other African countries participating in this. Now, impact. Bantu is enabling a Pan-African blockchain market infrastructure that unifies the secure issuance, trading, settlement, clearing, and custody of digital assets in all their manifestations and mutations in real time, thereby unlocking the capital trapped within the informal sectors of the economy, which will positively impact the GDP of our continent. It is very important. We are the richest continent in the world in terms of natural resources and human potential. However, blockchain is one of those tools that will help us to unlock all of these, make them liquid, better, faster, and cheaper. And that is what we are doing at the Bantu Foundation. Now, I'll talk briefly about Interstellar. So Interstellar is, I'm the founder and CEO of Interstellar, the commercial entity where Bantu was seeded. So Bantu came out of Interstellar as an R&D project, but Bantu was too big to be contained within Interstellar. So it was released to the world. And that's why we brought together all the Africans from across the world to help us build out this infrastructure. Interstellar was also recently the second out of 15 global companies selected to help develop the e-Naira. While we were not selected as the official partner for the CBN, we continue to carry out some research and other developments with the CBN in Nigeria. We've also been working with major corporations in Nigeria like InterSwitch, System Specs, Sterling, and others to really begin to develop real-world solutions that address real-world problems within our continent. So with that, I'll end there, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ernest. Very insightful and really quite amazing what you've been doing with Bantu and the global impact. So one thing we need to figure out is how Nigeria will now surpass Indonesia on your list. we seem on quite a few different things, being pretty close to Indonesia or pretty close to Brazil, and always looking like where we'll be on the trajectory to beat them, and that's not a bad thing. And it shows the huge amount of potential we have here. And thank you very much for being well within the time allocated. So I'd like to now go into some of the Q&As that we've had on the Q&A platform. I'd like to ask all the audience to please use the platform. We really do have a good number of people on here now. This event, we have 127 attendees right now, and a demonstration of the interest in the subject area and the number of questions we've been having. I think you've a few questions here. I think you've Ernest indicated something related to the government e-Naira and not participating, but it'd still be useful to get some insight. So we'll come back to that. I'll combine a couple of questions. One just came back and says, is blockchain hack proof? And apart from financial transactions, are there other business applications of blockchain? I think Ernest identified some of those other business applications. So perhaps we could maybe add more color to that from you, Ernest. Let me start with Uche, actually. Is blockchain hack proof? And then I'll just ask Ernest about the other usage scenarios. You need to unmute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So technology is interesting. Without scaring anybody, right? There's always a layer of attack, right? Of vulnerability where you could basically attack infrastructure technology. You need to find the weakest link. Blockchain in itself, right, is really as secure as you are able to secure the private keys, right? What you use to sign transactions on the blockchain. Typically, most of the hacks we've seen in blockchain either come from scenarios where the managers of the platform are not able to secure the keys or private keys that are used to sign transactions, which is really the basis for inserting data into the blockchain. That's one area. Another area is where you have bugs, right, in the smart contracts, right, that hackers can basically exploit. The infrastructure itself, right, is not really, you can't really hack that, right? But I would say it's more of a case of what is your whole security infrastructure like. It's not the technology, right? It's how you secure the different parts, right? Things that you use to sign transactions or interact with the system, really, not the technology.
Okay, so as ever, it usually comes down to people's diligence, no matter how much you try to secure, and where the weakest link might be the person, the diligence of the individuals that holds the access to the authentication you require and so on. If that's breached, then that's where the breach will come from, but not from the fundamental architecture of the blockchain platform, right? Okay. Ernest, there's this question about other usage scenarios for blockchain. You have a slide that mentioned that, but would you like to add a bit more color to that? I think the question came before you had the slide.
Sure. I mean, we focus a lot on the practical use cases. I mean, there's been all the excitement with trading, buying low, selling high, but really the true impact comes from real world use cases. I don't want to go too far. I mean, look at what Sterling is doing with their SABEX platform, where they've tokenized like agricultural commodities. And now you can easily trade them, make them liquid, and trade them internationally, not just within Nigeria. You can look at, for example, let's say you want to build a 5th or 6th mainland bridge, not just the 3rd mainland bridge in Lagos. You could, without having to go borrow money from taxpayers or banks, you could essentially ask those in Lagos to basically tokenize this bridge project. So everybody contributes 10,000 or 5,000 Naira, so to speak, and they all share in the revenues from the toll gates for the 5th or 6th mainland bridge, for example. There are cases where you have farmers who can basically come together through cooperatives, tokenize their gari, their cocoyams, their cassava, etc., have it backed in houses, securitized, and also used from this perspective. There's the real estate angle where, you know, I'd love to get a place on Eco Atlantic, but it's too expensive, but I could buy a square meter and own it and use that square meter in 5 years to buy maybe 1,000 square meters in Enugu or in Edo State, for example. So blockchain allows us to fractionalize what we have in the real world and participate. It allows each and every person within the economy, not just the wealthy, but those even keke riders, street hawkers, to really come together, pool their resources and invest in all these real world assets.
Now, you mentioned what Sterling is doing, great innovation there. But do you have any others in agriculture? But do you have any other specific examples, you know, that have been put in place either here in Nigeria or elsewhere in Africa, using other use cases?
Yeah, so we have a company called Convexity, also based out in Abuja. Shout out to Deji and Charles Okafor, who have used blockchain from a humanitarian perspective. So to allow people to use these tokens to contribute in a transparent manner for aid and relief and for supporting of refugees and things like that. So before this time, it was very difficult for people, you know, they want to contribute, but they don't have the dollars or whatever, or they don't have even the financial banking access to do this. But with blockchain, each of these people can come on board to literally contribute and provide aid. And this aid is truly visible and transparent. There is a project in South Africa, I forget the name now, where it's based on solar energy. So consumers, people basically, they fund projects for solar. You know, imagine the problems we have in Lagos right now with energy, with NEPA sometimes going out and generators. So imagine having a solution where these solutions or this infrastructure is rolled out, but each and every one of us, like in South Africa, can participate in funding that infrastructure. So as the consumers use it, we get a return on that. So you're addressing a real need, but also benefiting from the ecosystem that is deployed. Because again, it's a huge challenge to raise money to deploy some of these services. But when you see that you have a product market fit with people that are consistently consuming these products and services, that solves it right there. There are many other use cases, again, but the key thing here is transparency. And finally, there are projects in Nigeria already, tokenizing real estate, leveraging it for people to be able to afford. Because imagine trying to get a property on the island, you're spending about 50 to 100 million naira. But if you could join with 50 people, get a property, you know, you can do that with blockchain. Okay, the title is held somewhere, but you guys are all part of it. And later on, it can be flipped or sold, or you can sell your own ownership of that property and buy something on the mainland. Thank you. Okay,
so is this question that says, why the name Bantu?
Bantu, very interesting. Thank you for asking that. When you look at our logo, there are two key things. There's a symbol that looks like an X. That symbol is an ancient Adrinka symbol from Ghana, which means Fawohodi, or in English, independence or empowerment. Bantu means humanity or people. For those who know our African history, the Bantu came from somewhere between Nigeria and Cameroon, the border. And the largest migration of Africans outside the slave trade is known as the Bantu expansion. So when you combine Bantu and that logo, that X symbol, it means empowering humanity. So we are Bantu. Thank you.
Excellent. Uche, there's a question here directed more directly to you. So I'll swatch that email up from, I'll swap that question from Ernest to yourself. So should eNaira get a massive adoption, what effect would it have on transaction processing in Nigeria? and what would the adoption strengthen the value of the Naira? I guess through some of the virtues of the blockchain technology behind it. Any views?
Okay. So I think the e-Naira idea is a fantastic idea, right? And if you look at what CBN, what they came up with, the e-Naira and the implications for the cost of transaction is, it promises that transactions will be basically free, right? There will be no fees, for those transactions. What that basically means is that when you reduce the cost on transactions, you would see, of course, a lot more people willing to use that service. Also, because it leverages blockchain, there are no intermediaries. Transaction success rates are therefore guaranteed. That would definitely increase trust, right? Which would actually encourage more people to use that service clearly. So I see clearly, yes, that it would unlock a lot of value, right? If implemented in such a way that it ensures that all parties today that facilitate transactions and service those end users, like for agent banking today, for example, that today don't transact, they transact assisted, right? They need to be assisted. So if you expand it such that they can be accommodated, then of course the ramifications are tremendous, right? Tremendous. There will be so much adoption. And I dare say it would, if implemented properly, really lead us, towards a cashless Nigeria, truthfully, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that question that came on the value of the Naira and how this might impact the value of the Naira. I would say the same. I'm not some sort of central bank monetary expert. There's some fundamentals that impact the value of a currency. And if those fundamentals are not dealt with, supply, demand, aspects of regulatory tracking and so on, then your currency value is your currency value. Fundamentals have to be fixed. What digitization does, though, is allow you to get much better insights in tracking and security and process validation through the way a currency is used, and also decision-making by central banks. That's kind of my 2 pennies worth for that, not from the view of any monetary expertise. So we've had quite a few questions on that digital currency piece. There's some questions around, SMEs and also for people's careers. How can SMEs really use this, and what does it also mean as a career process, as a career opportunity for individuals? I'll put that to you again, Uche.
Okay. For SMEs, so again, I would say that how much value the SMEs are able to capture from this depends on access, right? The e-Naira idea is a fantastic idea. I agree, but I think it's still in its early phases, right? Where the central bank is directly delivering the e-Naira to end users. I feel that for them to really, for these SMEs to really cash in, right, and capture value, there has to be some layer, right, that enables the SMEs to directly transact, right, utilize the e-Naira in such a way that they have more control, right, and it seamlessly integrates to their business. So when I say easy access, more control, there's still conversations around distribution, right? How do you facilitate the distribution of the e-Naira, right? That needs to be sorted. I think once the issue of distribution, right, is sorted out, and how to enable other facilitators who need to assist some other users in the ecosystem plugin, right? The values are, you unlock so much value there. That said, what I'm saying in essence is that yes, right, there is opportunity to accelerate the rate at which business is done, thereby unlocking, a lot more value. However, a lot of work still needs to be done, right, in the e-Naira project to really get there.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Ernest, over to you. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I'd like to add something also. So when we look at Nigeria, we see that of over 200 million users, citizens, we have just about 40 million that are banked. Okay, and of those that are banked, a slightly lower figure is actually banking and using this system daily, despite its amazing infrastructure with NIBs and other market players. So with the eNaira, which is an amazing project, you know, they talked about a wallet called a Speed Wallet that everybody can download. It's also important to note that for SMEs, their market is not just going to be limited to people in Nigeria. I, for example, will be able to make payments anywhere in the world if I have that wallet. So I can actually transact within Nigeria, being outside Nigeria, so to speak. It can bring in other players from around the world, which means that the SMEs, all these players, their target audience is no longer just the local market, it's a global market. Once you put the Naira on blockchain, it can bend space and time, ultimately. And by doing that, we can begin to increase the velocity of money and do some very amazing things, including what we call the trading as well. It's no longer people, and you find that people may start to actually hold the Naira versus trying to hold the US dollar for the first time, simply because it now has some unique properties that are attractive for 21st century currency. Thank you.
Just interestingly, that question came up also as I was thinking about that. Not just Bantu, eNaira integration with not just say Bantu, but other cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, for instance, and Bitcoin. Do you see a seamless integration of interaction directly from eNaira into one of those other blockchain currency platforms, just to truly facilitate this not intra-country, but also inter-country export transactions and so on?
I agree, absolutely. I mean, because right now, one of the challenges we've had is that we've had to go from the Naira locally to the dollar or euro before going to these other currencies. But now having an eNaira, digital Naira, we can create these pairs and do direct swaps, okay? What that means is that you're going to have a lot of liquidity and resources now flowing into Nigeria to acquire this and vice versa. And will really address what with some of the trade imbalances that we face, not just in Nigeria, but also across Africa, when they start digitizing our currencies and not just the eNaira. So 100%, the local people trading in digital currencies, they will tell you that one of their biggest problems is not having a digital Naira, okay? And we already have many organizations that are getting ready to plug in this Naira to begin to create all these pairs for cross-border trade and also cross-blockchain, cross-chain transactions. So,
Anas, you made a very good point there around the value of the Naira, okay, which with some point I touched on earlier on, liquidity. Yes. So actually, if, for instance, we had this digital flexibility that gives diasporians, for instance, the confidence of transaction completion, without trying to get, around the haircut of getting into, a parallel market, thing, for instance, and you get true sort of a much narrower band between the digital value and a parallel market value. Even if the parallel market starts to use the digital value, that liquidity that we then drive may well actually bring significantly more inflows from diasporans and different international communities, raises liquidity, and therefore, by consequence, raise the value of the Naira significantly. That could be a chain reaction.
100%, 100%. And this is, again, which I said earlier, this technology reduces friction. The eNaira is going to go around the world 1,000 times while you're still waiting for your 7-day SWIFT payment to come through. So when people can move money at the speed of light, you will have more inflows into the continent and vice versa.
So maybe some of the payment systems will now become like Kodak, right? When you look at what happened to them with the camera.
Betamax,
Betamax, so on. Some quite interesting analogies there. We're getting close to the time now. I think we managed to get those presentations in time. And for quite a lot of questions that came through, I hope you'll see that if you'd ask a question, the way they've been answered actually address quite a few different questions that have been coming on the question and answer platform. However, there's one interesting one that's coming here. So what's the role of internal auditors to organizations in the chain? What's the place of independent auditors to organizations? I'll leave that both to Ernest's viewpoint, which is viewpoint, and then we'll go to the conclusion.
Okay. So okay, so auditors, you agree with me that the auditors are critical to any infrastructure system because they ensure that things are done very well. In order to ensure that you do not lose value, right? You don't lose value due to vulnerabilities or flaws in your smart contract or how the infrastructure is managed. I think they are actually useful, right? Because they have a lot of experience in laying out some of the requirements or rules that need to be implemented. You have so as to secure your infrastructure or whatever service it is you run. It's important to engage those auditors and have them adequately represented on the platform or the ecosystem. So yeah, they shouldn't be ignored, right? They play a critical role, but again, it's more of a supervisory role, really. Also, another thing I also wanted to add is that a lot of the reference to the applications of blockchain seems to talk about what they are able to do outside of the existing space, out of the existing economy or business space that they also address. Remember, those spaces actually have incumbents that are there, right? That are strong, extremely strong. Part of why the blockchain adoption has also been slow is because there's been this dichotomy where I'm traditional, right? I'm pure blockchain, right? I truly believe that for us to truly unlock the value of blockchain, there has to be some marriage, right? You have to engage the traditional operators, sort of find a way to marry their own processes, right? With what you've implemented on the blockchain, automate it and have them included. And then you're going to see an explosion, right? Mainstream adoption of the technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ernest?
Uche, thank you very much for saying that. And one thing that if we have to take something away from this is that we need to be consuming our own products. We need to be consuming our own infrastructure. That's why I'm so excited to see what AppZone is doing and other players. What we've been doing at Bantu is our own solution, Africa-led. Why is this important? For us, as we consume other blockchain infrastructure services, that's why we've had this outflow of all the dollars exporting. So we've had this challenge where we keep channeling Forex outwards. But when we have these solutions locally, we can suck this Forex inwards. And as we said before, when you now have a digital e-Naira on blockchain, that allows for direct pairing. We don't have to be buying dollars and doing all of that any longer. So it's very important for us to consume our locally produced stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, we're already partnering with classical institutions, with the legacy institutions, in banks, Sterling, InterSwitch Group, System Spec, Remitter, etc., because we understand that you cannot leave them behind. You have to work with them as we basically embrace the future. So let us continue to invest in our own products and services, and that's why we have the Bantu blockchain here. It belongs to us. Let us support it to grow our own ecosystems. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, thanks. So that sounded a bit like a good rounding up point, Ernest. We are running out of time. Uche, any rounding off comments?
Okay, I would basically round off with saying yes. Again, this is also off of what Ernest has said, and I also said. One, it's key that for us to see mainstream adoption and implementation of the technology across various spheres, be it in asset management, be it in real estate, be it in agriculture, be it in supply chain. There has to be some collaboration, right? between the existing players in the industry, right? And work with them to come up with a framework of governance operation regulatory framework, or implement what they have existing, right? Create that, take our technology, what you have, and then make sure there's some marriage between it and what we have. We've done that with the central bank, right? With Zone Switch, which is a solution today used by banks for transaction processing. The next phase of that platform, what we're doing next with it is actually cross-border payments, right? And the way we are approaching cross-border payments is walking away from dollarization, right? And the conversations around that area has been extremely interesting, right? Taking what we're doing for an e-naira, but do that across the continent, right? And we're doing that actively by engaging the players in the industry, thereby allowing us to come up with something that is all-encompassing, all-inclusive, because a blockchain platform is a community, right? It's not run by an individual; it's an ecosystem.
Exactly. That's a great conclusion. It's not run by individuals, it's an ecosystem. And that gets adopted as it gets established in different parts of our lives, in port management, control, goods, as someone talked about. How about solid minerals, exports, transaction security, transaction validation and trust, and so on. So it gets into our way of life, and because of the value proposition, it will just get adopted as because of what it's able to offer in so many different use cases. Fantastic presentations. I think I can assure people that those presentations will be shared. There's the questions have been broadly answered as a package. I've seen some new questions coming specifically on technology. So with those, I would suggest that you engage Uche separately or engage Ernest separately. Fantastic presentation. A great range of people in the audience today. I thank you all very, very much for coming in. Great insights. And without much further ado, I would like to ask Engineer Leia Kukului to give the vote of thanks. Thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone. It's been a delight, an honor, and a pleasure to be here as moderator.
Yeah, thank you very much, my colleague, brother Ayotunde Kuka. We brought this thing together knowing fully well that we have the gentlemen that have the key, that know the door and control the room of opportunity in blockchain. And you have not actually, you have shown us that there are a lot of opportunity, and it was not a mistake, because it was thought out to have you gentlemen coming together. Thank you very much for coming. So the president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Tokima Bogunje, ably represented by our own colleague, Benga Ismail, Captain of Industry, fellow officers, council member of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, distinguished moderator, discussant, distinguished guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege and a great joy for me to extend a vote of thanks to you all in this occasion for an immense contribution in one way or the other to make this event success. On behalf of the president, once again, Mrs. Tokima Bogunje, and the entire membership of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I wish first to extend my sincere appreciation to God for the success of today's event. It has been raining very much here, and as an Africa, that's a sign of blessing today. I'm very heartily appreciate the distinguished guest speaker, our moderators and contributors for this event, Mr. Uche Elendu, the Chief Executive of Upton. We are very proud of you as an African that had the key to this opportunity. And Mr. Uche Elendu and Mr. Ernest Umbekum, you have shown showing us the sign of Africa again. And that all those things that have been taken away from us, we can get it back to this blockchain. Thank you very much. We thank both of you so much, sparing your time to be with us in this occasion. Sharing your word of experience, despite your busy schedule, we have been worthwhile listening to you. Big thank again to our brother, one of us, who has been doing it all over, not this year alone. We've been together on this for over 8 years, try to enlighten Nigeria and the opportunities that we can have in this new technology, in this new revolution, Mr. Tunde Foka. We appreciate you so much, and what RAC Center have been doing for the whole community. We thank you so much for your immense contribution. We cannot thank you enough. We also appreciate members of the science, energy, and technology. All those guys in that in the committee, they know so much. I'm only speaking on their behalf. They know everything. I personally know nothing. They are the ones that bring all these funds together. And I say thank you for your contribution, your involvement. May Lord lift you up in all your business. I appreciate your worthy partner, our media professionals that are here today, that generate awareness regardless of the program. Let me humbly express my sincere appreciation to the president of the chamber, Mrs. Magoguye, for the objective. They have been part of this science and technology. It's our passion that brought us here today. I wish to thank the secretariat led by the Director General, Dr. Chinyere Anoma. We are here with your word of experience. I have added so much value to what we have done today. We appreciate everyone here today for your support. Thank you very much, and I wish you well. Now that the door of opportunities have opened for us, and we will take advantage of it. Thank you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Lea Kupolui, Vice President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And on behalf of the President, I would like to say a very big thank you and then extend a very special invitation to App Zone Switch and Interstellar and Bantu Foundation. In fact, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the platform you have been waiting for. We can't wait to have both of you join us as members. We promise you powerful networking platform and as well as advocacy and government relations opportunity. So we'll be looking forward to having you become members of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And on this note, we have come to the end of the show, and we want to thank everyone that has been part of the success story of this show. Once again, thank you and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The 2021 Lagos International Trade Fair is here. Bigger, better, and safer than ever before. The fair will host over 2,000 exhibitors and over 500,000 visitors throughout the 10-day period with the participation of both local and international media. This year's edition will feature in-person and virtual versions of the fair simultaneously. Relevant COVID-19 containment measures will be deployed in compliance with the NCDC guidelines. Participants are guaranteed adequate 24-hour security, digital surveillance, seamless traffic control, and an uninterrupted power supply in all sectored exhibition areas. So join us from the 5th to the 14th of November 2021 at the Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos. Time 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. For booking and inquiries, please visit www.lagosinternationaltradefair.com or call us on 0700 Lagos Chamber or 0700 524 6724, or you can reach out to us via our email litf@lagoschamber.com or marketing@lagoschamber.com. Lagos International Trade Fair, connecting businesses, creating value, powered by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.